Hi there, it's Jennifer Iserloh, and welcome to Healthy Cheats, where I teach you how to lead the good life, but keep it healthy too. So today I'm going to be showing you how to make one of my favorite restaurant appetizers. It's a luscious ruby red tuna tartare. So to get started, I'm going to slice up some aromatics. And we have things like jalapeno, we have some beautiful fresh ginger, and some shallots. And essentially, aromatics are just things that add interest to a dish and that add a real kick of flavor. And one of the reasons why I'm using things that are so pungent is because this preparation is raw. So to get started with the ginger, we're going to want to peel this. And a lot of people out there know the tip of using a spoon to get the skin of the ginger root off. But I prefer to use a peeler. I find this potato peeler is so much faster. I have a nice sharp one. This is Swiss made, and it's really inexpensive. It's a great tool to have in your kitchen. But if you don't happen to have this, go ahead and use a spoon, no problem. Now when you look for ginger, you want to make sure that it's nice and yellow on the inside. It should be almost like a lemony yellow. That way you know it's nice and fresh. So next thing we're going to do is chop this up. And always when I'm working, I try to make sure that my knives are as sharp as possible. This makes the work go fast and avoids accidents. Another reason I love ginger is because not only does it have this incredible aromatic flavor that's going to add, sort of a chef's spin to this dish, but it also has a lot of healing properties. It has antibacterial compounds that can actually kill any germs that might be in some of the dishes that you're working with. Next, we're going to use a little bit of fresh jalapeno. And usually you don't see jalapeno in the restaurant version of this often, but my friend Chef G, who actually showed me how to make this dish, uses it, and he's from Mexico. So jalapeno is just a great way to add some heat, spice, and a little bit of fusion. Since we're using a lot of ingredients today that are Asian, things like the ginger, and later on we're going to be adding some sesame oil. So what's important to remember about the jalapeno is to take the seeds and the membrane off. That's the really spicy part. But if you're, up for super hot, by all means, keep them in. And another reason I like to add chilies to this is it's one of those ingredients that's a win-win when it comes to health. Super low in calories, zero fat, and chilies, just like ginger, have a lot of healing properties. They have an active ingredient that's called capsaicin, which is being studied in the fight against arthritis. And you'll actually find it in a lot of arthritis creams. So again, if your knife skills aren't up to par, you don't have to sweat it. You can always do this part in a mini chopper, but I like to chop this up because this is part of the enjoyment of cooking and really savoring that moment. And I find chopping up chilies and preparing fresh food is really a stress relief for me. Next, I'm going to use some shallot. And shallot is from the onion family. But the reason I like to use this instead of a regular onion is because it has a much more mild flavor, which is great in any raw preparation. And the shallot is also one of those gourmet ingredients that most restaurant chefs love because of their delicate flavor and their unique color. You can see how they have sort of this beautiful pink hue. Now again, if you can find shallot in your local grocery store, don't sweat it. You can always use a little bit of red onion in this. Just make sure that you cut back on the portion size since red onion is a lot stronger than shallot. Now most of the ingredients we're using today are Asian. We're going to do some sesame seeds in here, some sesame oil, we have ginger. But what I love to encourage people to do is really mix and match the ingredients so that you can tailor the dish to your needs and make it really special and call it your own. So now I've got some fresh lime here, and this is a great chef's secret. Instead of using the lime juice, which would actually cook the tartare, and since we want to keep it raw, we want to avoid that, we're just going to use the zest. The zest is incredibly flavorful. It has this amazing aroma. It's calorie-free, it's fat-free. It's one of those great ingredients that you can use in so many dishes. And it adds a little spark of color. And I don't know about you, but whenever I cook, I also eat with my eyes. So this is a great way to add color and interest to this dish. So next we're going to take a look at our tuna. So the important thing to remember when you're doing any raw preparation is to go for sushi. So it has to be grade A sushi tuna. And you might be thinking, oh, it's going to be hard to find. But the best thing to do is to make good friends with your fishmonger. He's really going to tell you what the freshest catch is and help to get you the best piece of tuna. Another option for you is to go to your local sushi restaurant and buy a piece there. So when you're ready to cut up this tuna, you want to make sure that, of course, your cutting board is clean, and you want to take a look at these membranes here that are on the outside. These parts can be a little bit tough, so if you see any membranes that are bright white, you just want to cut those away. You can either discard this, or if you have a cat or dog, sometimes I cook these up for my dogs, Milo and Chester. So next we're just going to slice this up. And if you're serving this for a great party or you're having a get-together, you can always do this part ahead of time. Cut your aromatics, have them separately, cut up your fish, and pack that separately in a dish as well. Now when you're picking tuna, just make sure that you look for something that really has a matte finish, just like the matte finish of a photograph. So your fish should smell really fresh, and the only exception to that is something like a salmon that's a little bit more oily. Sometimes it does have a slight odor, a fishy odor. But with tuna, it should always be like an ocean breeze. So our next step is to add some of this beautiful dark sesame oil. And you can usually find this in your standard grocery store. And I like this because it has an incredible flavor and it's great to use raw. Now I put this on before I add my salt because the oil helps to insulate the fish and keeps the salt from cooking it. Because we're not making ceviche here, we're making tartare. So we want to make sure that the fish stays raw. And we'll add, you can use kosher salt here, sea salt. In terms of health, all salt across the board is the same. I like to use sea salt because I like the flavor of it. It seems as if there's herbs inside, but in terms of sodium counts, they really pan out in a very similar way. All right, so we're ready to plate this up. And I have this amazing biscuit cutter, and this is something that you can find on the internet or in a bake shop. Traditionally, bakers use this to make something like a buttermilk biscuit, but this is what we're going to use to give this that gourmet pizzazz. So when you bring this to the table at your next dinner party, people are going to clap. So we'll just spoon that right into the ring. Now traditionally, tuna tartare is a pretty healthy dish on its own, but the next thing I'll show you is a way to keep it very low in carbs. Normally when you go to a restaurant, they're going to serve this with some toasted bread or some crackers, but we're going to serve it with some endive. So you just pull off your biscuit cutter. Doesn't matter if it falls down a little bit on the side, you can always just pull that away. And we're going to cut up our endive. And endive, usually you find this in the same section of the grocery store where you find your lettuce. Now, if you can't find this, you can really use any small lettuce leaves. But I like these because these have a little bit of bitterness, so it's a nice contrast against the richness that's inside the sesame. So we'll put those on the side. And last but not least, we're going to garnish. Now, when you learn to cook healthy, herbs are always a great way not only to add beauty to a dish, but also to add a lot of nutrition. They have a lot of good things like vitamins, minerals, and again, it's a win-win situation because they're extremely low in fat, low in calories, but they're adding an interesting layer of flavor. And these chives are going to mimic the flavor that's inside the shallots. So you're using an ingredient twice, which is also something that a lot of chefs do, or using ingredients that mimic each other in terms of texture or flavor or aroma. Now here I've got some beautiful sprouts, and you can use any kind of microgreen. A microgreen is just a sprout of any plant, and restaurant chefs use them to dress up a plant, to give it a little bit more fancy flair on top. These are alfalfa sprouts, but really you can use any sprouts you can find, and if they're not available, you can always use an additional herb. So we're just going to put these on top, and you want to be very gentle when you're handling with these because you don't want to bruise them. And last, we're going to garnish with a little bit of black sesame. Black sesame adds some crunch, also the color contrast. And you know, again, like what I said about eating with your eyes, it's about really savoring these moments, making the dish look as pretty as possible, because you're cooking for someone you love, or maybe you're cooking for yourself, and you know, it's a great thing to treat yourself right. So there you have it, a beautiful restaurant appetizer that's not only healthy, but absolutely gorgeous and gourmet. I'll see you next time on Healthy Cheats. Hey everyone, if you have a great recipe that you'd like to see me do in a healthier way, just let me know. You can send a video response or ask your questions in the comments below. I can't wait to hear from you.